Hi, and welcome to another segment of One Geezer's Garage. I'm Wayne Powell, the head geezer. As you know, we're attempting to put a late model I think it's officially a Gen 4 Chevrolet small block engine into a BMW. And I know some of you BMW fans are going to think that's a sacrilege. I'm thinking maybe it's more like a salvation, and I'll get to that a little later on. But right now, what I'd like to do is show you some of the things we've done to get this engine ready to put in another vehicle. I wanted to make sure that we actually could make it run. There's a lot of wiring on one of these late model fuel injected engines. There are connectors and bundles of wires all over everywhere. You can buy aftermarket wiring harnesses, but I wanted to take on the challenge of actually taking the original wiring harness and seeing if we couldn't modify it and make it work. And I'll show you some of the things, the things we've done to do that. A couple of my buddies and I had built an engine test stand because after we'd rebuild some engines, rather than putting it in the vehicle and sorting out all the issues and solving little leaks and tuning issues, we wanted to be able to run it on the stand, breaking the cams, and those kinds of things. So we've modified this test stand to fit this, as I mentioned before, it's actually out of a GMC Envoy, a 2005 model. This is a 5.3 liter, all aluminum block, aluminum heads. It's been now adapted to, we bolted on a two-wheel drive transmission rather than the four-wheel drive that came originally. But we put it on the test stand, and it was actually fairly easy to make these motor mounts. This is the original big rubber mount that came on the GMC Envoy. There was another cast iron bracket that actually fastened to the frame rail. Got rid of that, and there are two nice studs that stick out below this mount. I just drilled a flat plate for the test stand and then put a bolt here. They actually slope a little bit. It's not the weight of the engine that's bringing it down. That's actually the way those fit in the vehicle. System back past the cats before the muffler. So we've got the cats and the catalytic converters, and the sensors are there. When I went to the salvage yard to get this engine, part of the deal was I wanted to get as much of the original vehicle as I could, and so one of the things I did get was the original fuse box. This mount was on the inner fender of the vehicle, and I got part of the connectors that actually go in the bottom of this fuse panel. As you can see on the top, there are lots of fuses and relays, starter relay, fuel pump relay, all kinds of other things. Some of those we'll use, some of them we won't. I got this connector because it was actually attached to the vehicle. There were three other blocks here that stayed with the vehicle, and the salvage yard didn't want to cut into the original wiring harness. So I did some research and discovered that I only needed a few of these pins on the bottom of the fuse panel. So, for example, we've got two here. This is bringing 12 volts in, actually from the key, the ignition switch, and then the other one, well, it brings 12 volts in from the battery, and then 12 volts out. I'll get this straight in a minute. We bring 12 volts into this end of the fuse box. It powers a bunch of the pins here, including one of these that goes out, goes to our ignition switch, comes back, and then some of these relays and fuses are live when the key is on. So we've got things like the fuel pump. This feeds the fuel pump. This one actually feeds a lot of the ECM, the engine control module, and a couple of others that I'll tell you about later on. I've even rigged up a temporary service engine soon light just to see if that would work. The engine control module, you can't see it, but I'll give you a close-up of it, I've got it mounted up here kind of in the original position. There are three big connectors with all kinds of wires that feed into that. The transmission control module is on the back side of that. What else? Oh, I'd mentioned in the first segment that this has drive-by-wire. Rather than having a throttle cable, there's an electrical sensor on the accelerator pedal, sends an electrical signal through the ECM and up to the throttle body. So I've mounted the original accelerator pedal out of the GMC Envoy here on the side of the test stand, and then just by following through the service manual, figured out where the wires go, pulled certain wires out of this connector bundle and clipped those off and mated them up with the sensor on the accelerator pedal, and we made that work. So, did we succeed? Well, let's take a listen. I've got a main switch that turns a little bit of everything on. I've got an ignition switch, which is the same as turning the key on, and then I've got a start button. Accelerator pedal. Yeah, it runs. This is Wayne Powell at One Geezer's Garage. I'll see you again next time when we'll talk about the car that this is going into. See you then.